Hello there, brave hearts, urbanites, and Coach Mad Hatters. And welcome to the 90-Day Journey by Heart installments for days. What days were we? Days 47 through 50. This journey's moving right along, isn't it? There's all sorts of stuff going on. As I mentioned in the recent previous installment, the last installment, we are right at the brink of Mercury retrograde, as well as right across the threshold of the new moon energies in Scorpio, facing the full moon in Taurus on November 12th. So there's a lot of energies that we are contending with. And if you are a scholaring coach, Mad Hatter, then you know that energies will influence the individual differently. Just as your handprint, your footprint, your biological rhythms, they are all unique to your specific being. And if you've been hanging with me since the beginning of this series, or even the series before, the Comfy Sofa Conversation Series 1, we speak a lot about the details of one's birth chart and the supporting evidence around it. To pull your birth chart, you will honestly begin to resonate with the notion that no one, absolutely no one, is like you. No one. And due to certain social conditionings, we've been bred to believe that on, what can I say, at the fundamentals, we are the same. But after that, it branches off. I often like to think about the different species of butterflies, or bees, or fish, or flowers, or trees, even storms and clouds, streams, rivers, climates, gravel, rock, soil, clay, honey, even. All of nature's components, which does not exclude its human beings, come in a multitude of varieties. That's why it baffles me why we stay at odds about differences. I wonder what the world would be if we truly stepped into the portal of respect of differences. We didn't judge based on differences. We didn't judge based on similarities either. Like, what if we just wipe that completely from the judgment, where it's null and void? There is no reason for us to assume that because someone is different, then they are at odds for some reason. Oh, so the dogs are in uproar. Hopefully they will simmer down in a moment, or I'll have to pause it because I can't speak when they're rowdy like that. Yeah, I'm gonna pause it for a moment. Okay, we're back. So, with that said, I'm figuring that I'm going to officially usher in the installment as well as talk to you about the 15 card pyramid that I pulled during the meditative session before this recording, as well as the curious 5 additional cards that wanted to come out. For some reason, I completed the pyramid and the urge to continue shuffling was strong. So I'm going to start with the, I'm being urged to call them the infamous 5. So let's get started. Greetings and salutations, Bravehearts, Urbanites, and Coach Mad Hatters. Welcome to the Serendipity Gateway to our 90-day journey by heart. And a Phoenix Grand Rising to the presence of our mahogany wood ancestors, gods and goddesses of divine trifecta and interventions. We welcome you, and we ask that you travel alongside us to ignite and activate our clarity and our creativity so that we may know the truth by the way that it feels, especially when it resonates with the highest good of our uniqueness and wholehearted individuality. I thank you kindly for enlisting my love team and providing me the courage to level up through my tender transparencies and authentic expressions. Please keep me tuned into the frequencies of your heartbeat and intuitive rhythms. Please clue me into the realms of the bigger picture so that I may accurately interpret the 6 degrees of our stories, community closeness, affinity affections, and divine timing. Thank you, my inner court. I greatly appreciate your guiding presence. The CMHU Coaching Conclave is now in session. Ashe. Okay, so quite exciting pyramid spread I have here. And this is what was really intriguing about this immaculate experience. I had no idea that it was going to become a pyramid before I started shuffling. I was halfway through the shuffle, and the way that speaking of which, let me just pause and say that I took a photo of it, posted it up on the blog so that you can take a look. I'm not sure, you probably can zoom in. I'm not sure if you'll be able to read the details of each card, but at least you will be able to see the way the cards are situated. And I believe that for, I want to say special occasions, but for some reason I'm getting the notion that this just may be uh, the Coach Mad Hatter's layout for the card spread. But I'm still processing that part of it, so I'm not exactly sure how it's going to be moving forward. But the more and more I look at the way the cards are situated, I keep uh, noticing the thought that it has something to do with our invisible spaces, how we move invisibly. Most often, I will speak about um, the Coach Mad Hatter's trajectories, which are more often than not situated to analyze, research, and develop the relationship with self, the courtship with one's invisible muses. That's what this is all about. And I know I'll say it again and again that the push for these recordings is mainly so that perceptions and paradigms may shift and reconcile. And so while I am learning and gathering certain um, intellectual discoveries about myself, I'm figuring that it's good knowledge for me to share because so many are now seriously taking up the cause to become closer with themselves. They are becoming unapologetic about seeking that which authentically makes them them. They are no longer given into the group thought or the social stratas or the traditional confinements of this is the way we do it, so this is the way you ought to do it. And I'll just reiterate it here where I don't speak in either or. I very rarely do I compare and contrast. Now, that doesn't mean I don't, um, but I am growing into the knowledge that variety is the way that this dimension exists. It exists off of multiplicity. It exists in, I really want to say, like a Seven of Cups type of energy, and I'm talking about the overall dynamic of the third dimension. Like the entire realm is of multi. Yeah, it's a multi dynamic. It's a multi dynamic, and so um, the quote that Bob Marley used to always say that the cornerstone. How does he say it? Just escaped me just that quick. That the stone that they threw away will become the cornerstone. I have to look it up now because it plays in my head quite nicely. Like I can hear his voice and everything. But when I get ready to speak it into the ether, it never comes out right. And you would have thought that I would have written it down somewhere by now, but I haven't. And I can't even give a reason to why. So, all of that to say that the cornerstone card of the pyramid, now the way that the cards came out, it's the bottom five from left to right, and then the next row of four, and all of them, I placed them from left to right. So, the very first card that came out was the exact same card of yesterday's installment, which is the AMCB PT Challenge to seek out a course of action that leads to a newer level of art, music, craft, vocation, poetic justice, and the newly added tarot treasure troves. If any of those elements within the right brain hemisphere resonates with you or you're already into it, dig a little deeper into it. If there's something within your desires that is provoking you to explore your more artistic side or has been asking you to draft out that piece of poetry or write the song or create the music, produce the beat, go to pottery class, go into some type of crafting realm, please begin to do so. There's all sorts of vocation that I'm pretty sure is and shall and forever will be calling our names to come and be with it, to blend with it. And we ought to do ourselves a favor and begin emotionally and financially and intellectually investing in such things. Those infusions of self, They are truly calling to us. Now, be honest with yourself. How many times have that little quiet voice inside your mind invited you to go do something that you already knew you wanted to do, but you shunned it? You pushed it out of your mind. You put up some type of reasoning. You propped up some type of reasoning that would justify why you shouldn't. So let me ask you, have you ever at some point reevaluated it and gave a reason why you should? Okay, so our infamous five. And so since the last shall be first, these are the last five cards that was not part of the pyramid setup. We're going to start with those. So the first card out is an affirmation. I invite myself to experience or discover blank. The second card is of vocabularics. So to explore what it means, which also can double as a vocabulary gallery for those that write songs, write poetry, those that create through the power of words. So the first word is eureka. The second word is extraordinary. The third word is astro alchemy. The fourth word is golden compass. And what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth word is pineapple hearted. And I know you're probably thinking like, Coach, that is so not a word. It actually it is. It's a compound sentiment is what it is. Back in the day, back in the early days, uh, when it was aristocratic to have a pineapple, when the pineapple was introduced to the non-tropic areas, it was incredibly expensive to purchase them just because they had not yet honed in on um, safety shipping mechanisms. And so to have a pineapple signified a certain level of affluence. And it carried a lot of prestige to be able to serve pineapples during certain social gatherings. Because pineapples were hard to get, America decided to do something where they had this pineapple craze. So they started making pineapple flags and uh, pineapple like infused stationaries. Like there were drawings and potteries and trinkets and figurines and all sorts of pineapple paraphernalia. I know that's not a excuse me. Just for the lack of a better term, just lean with me, rock with me for a little while. So the pineapple craze or the pineapple fancy was um, even brooches, like pendants and brooches and belt buckles. And so to wear the emblem, to wear the symbol of a pineapple was the indication of affluence. That's the word that's coming to mind right now. But it was associated with hospitality. So if the travelers or the vagabonds or whomever, uh, uh, bed and breakfast was a big deal back then too. Of course, it was before the hotel chains and things of that nature. So many families, if they had extra bedrooms, would rent them out for travelers. And so uh, quite a bit knew that the home that had the flag of the pineapple was of high quality hospitality, and they would be treated very well, in addition to experiencing wonderful food and beverage. A concept was birthed out of that. So to have a pineapple heart means that you are a gracious host, and more than likely, you have room for guests, and not necessarily long term guests, but you are a hostess of overnight guests, which means if folks sleep over, they are pretty much promised, decent linen and something nice and warm or tasty to eat and drink, and some form of engagement. Um, I'm a loss for words right at the moment, but I think you get it. So, to explore that word, especially as an association of one's identity, I think is a pretty cool thing because as I build momentum to have the notion reinstated that home is where the heart is and that supper parties is the new sexy, so that we may get some of this loving energy back into the household. Um, and most often, when I say certain things like that in conversation, I am often mistaken for being like this antisocial, like, basher of, I don't know, all things fun. And some days I do have my moment where it's just like, really? Like, I would prefer to either fix something, fire up the kitchen, and call friends over before I put clothes on and go, yeah, yeah. So that is me, and it's my coach in particular, because I almost feel that way about um, the work environment too. And of course, everyone is not going to gravitate to it. But I also know that an injustice was made upon the household when the Industrial Revolution kicked in and factories and manufacturing companies and public relations, whatever they were, mega houses or whatever you want to call them, when their boom hit the social strata, everybody was taken out of the home because everybody had to get up and go to work. And so the home was left as this void, like the energy of the heart chakra um, is most absent in many homes. Is most absent. Folks don't gather around the dinner table anymore. Mainly because mama or daddy is running from getting off of work between 5:30 and 6:30. By the time they get home 7:30, not only are they beat, but then they have to contend with whatever it is that they have to contend with before they get ready to lay it down and do it again the next day. And trust me, we all have the same hours in the day. And if you have little ones in the house, homework is barely getting done. Everybody's emotionality is triggered. You really don't get a time to unwind between the workday and setting in for the evening. So I'm an advocate of work from home. I am an advocate of that. I don't believe in the shabby notion that folks are not disciplined enough to carve out when they should be working and when they shouldn't. I don't believe that. I refuse to believe that. Especially ones who know that they will save on parking. I was just having this conversation with my daughter's girlfriend Sunday, sitting on the porch. They delighted me with a visit, and it was wonderful. I didn't get a chance to see my oldest son, but my daughter and my youngest son came over, and my daughter's girlfriend and my daughter's beau and one of his friends. And so I made spaghetti and we just sat around and we talked. My dad and my stepmom just had surgery, so it was nice for my kids to be able to come and see my stepmom, make sure she was doing okay, my baby sister. And so it was just nice. It was just a wonderful, wonderful energy in the house on Sunday to usher in the new moon in Scorpio. Um, Especially for me, I had been praying for some sunshine that my kids are known to bring through the door. And so impromptu, and I didn't even get up on Sunday with the idea that I was going to prepare dinner and call them over. It happened succinctly, just like the building of this pyramid when the cards were coming out as I was shuffling doing premeditation. Very incredible things are happening. And I said this in yesterday's installment. I have been, what's the word? Oh, I can't even think of the word, and it seems like it's on the tip of my tongue, but I've been poking. I've been poking at the divine, wanting to see the magic in all of this that I've been studying, to see the metamorphosis of the next level of my due diligence to study and crack the code on some mysteries as it relates to the relationship with self and engaging invisible muses and mainly just walking that which I am now talking about and making sure that I stay authentic to the cause. And yeah, stepping out there to make sure that I properly lay the foundation for um, Coach Matt Hattery because it is a specialty of coaching. It's not regular life coaching. It is for this specific genre of those considered unemployable, those who would be deemed unmarketable. Because one thing is for certain, two things are for sure. Even if mainstream figures that you are not worthy or qualified, you know within yourself you were given or allotted or you were born with or you possess certain talents and certain gifts that beg to differ. So what? You don't fit into their human resources schematic. That does not mean you are worthless. So what? Ain't nobody calling you for a job. Does not mean you are unemployable. It just means that you have to shift up your your direction, your attention, your aim, your focus. It took me such a long time. And to be quite honest with you, even within the last 90 days, I've applied for a position where I knew they weren't going to call me back. And it almost feels like the divine is like, okay, you're poking me for magical instances to prove that you're on the right track and you need to keep going. And then you turn around and you submit some resume to go be bogged down in some office environment for the majority of your week, and you know that's going to immediately enact depressive episodes. You've been inside of the workforce long enough to know that it is the kryptonite to your creativity. So all of that, all of that rambling was for just card number two within the realm of the vocabularies. So check out if it resonates with you the content and context around being considered a pineapple hearted. It is some extraordinary stuff, and you will definitely holler Eureka if in fact it resonates with you. The third card is the Interpersonal Developmental Make a Wish Foundation card. Discover your life path, and that is done by simply adding up the digits of your birthday, simplifying it down to one digit. With my birthday being January 5th, 1972, my life path number is 7. According to astrostyle.com, life path number 7 is considered the seeker. I became a new creature when I found out just that tidbit of information and began to research the life path number 7. And all of the information that I found out, it wasn't that it was telling me anything new, but it was bringing calm to my chaos. It was affirming that I was not out of whack. A bit different, yes. Borderline eccentric, sometimes, all depending on the stars, the moon, and planetary alignment. But it gave understanding, overstanding to my level of intense research and sifting through things and quilting this together with this together to make a brand new this for it now to be together. And how certain ideas will pop up in my head that will have me join these notes that I took 3 years ago to the new notes that I took 3 days ago and rewrite an entire something. So being a seeker fits me. It fits me inside my personal and professional realms. It fits me inside of my emotional realms and my scholarly realms and my teaching realms and my coaching realms. I often look at myself as being a key maker. And I know I've mentioned this in a couple of other recordings. Because as information sit before me and I analyze it, and this is my 9 to 5. Like my 9 to 5 is to research and develop coaching curricula for those that find themselves in unconventional coaching situations. I say it all the time and was saying it way before there was a film. I am the Harriet Tubman of emotional intelligence. I dubbed myself that when I want to say like fresh out of coaching certification in 2014, but I knew it wasn't going to be the conventional. I knew it was not going to be the mainstream level of coaching because I'm an underground railroad type of girl. So the next card number 4, is of journal fitting, and it's under the Songversation banner. The invitation is to listen and ponder A Song for You by Layla Hathaway. And I like to say when this card comes out, that to listen to Layla Hathaway's version when she sang it live at the Apollo, it is on YouTube. Look it up. A Song for You. Her dad, um, Danny Hathaway, sang it. Or no. He is the original composer of it. Let's get that straight. Um, but to witness her sing that version and how you will find yourself in that song. If you don't find yourself in that song, I'll be quite amazed. And find yourself in that song doesn't necessarily mean that the lyrics is telling your story per se, but if you don't tingle or like make the heart go boom diddy boom boom boom, I'd be quite surprised. If in fact it does move you in some kind of way. And the bonus is certain revelations or certain ahas or light bulbs. Something will happen. Now, I'll tell you this, because it's one of my favorite songs, I listen to it often. And so we have an understanding that even if nothing happens in one session, something has to happen within a session. So maybe keep it in your mind, keep it in your mind's Rolodex, and tap into it every now and again and see if what magic awaits you. Fifth card out is one of the Coach Matt Hatter's tarot um, exclusives, which is the Queen of Eureka. And we spoke about Eureka when we were talking about the Vocabularyx card. Meditate upon your intrapersonal wonders and inward dialogue. Increase self courtships and musology. And self is the sacred slash Sankofa energy life force. So then that would mean anything that's sacred to you or that could be associated with your past, your ancestors' past, your culture's past, any of those things that will help enlighten your conversation, your inner dialogue with self. Tap into that. Tap into your musology, which means that you call upon the muses of Greek mythology and see if they'll sit with you. And this is truly and fondly for my creatives, those that get paid to create original content. Call them muses in and ask them to come sit with you. And you call them to come visit like you would call one of your girlfriends or your homeboys to come visit. I often giggle about the human version of Netflix and chill because my imagination is so on fleek. I don't really watch TV unless I am stupid bored out of my mind. Will I watch TV? I'll listen to an audiobook before I watch TV. But I giggle because my version of Netflix and chill actually involves cannabis, my invisible muses, my eyes are closed, and pencil and paper is close by. Yeah, and I'm in a whole new world. So so yeah, call upon those muses. I am more than positive that they will drop you, kick you some knowledge that will uh, propel you into something extraordinary. So that was the infamous five. And that's interesting because That wasn't even part of the pyramid layout. I'm wondering if I should save the pyramid layout for the next installment, because this installment is for up to day 50. Da, 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 da. And besides, like right at this moment, I am borderline scatterbrain. I have quite a bit of things going on, and so my mind is literally ping ponging different things back and forth while I speak. But I kind of wanted to get this done before the onset of Mercury retrograde. Uh, Even though Mercury retrograde handles me a bit differently, with my Virgo moon, Virgo rising, Virgo ascending, I um I have some things that I have to contend with, but it's not as bad as others. But for some reason, I don't want to chance it, and I just spent that little moment rambling back and forth trying to figure it out, as if me and you were on the phone. Um, but this is what I think I'm gonna do. I think, yeah, because the pyramid, you can, and if you're listening to this one, I will put the link to the blog inside of the keynotes, and you can take a look at the photo, and I think I will do, we'll unfold this in the next installment, because it's a sight to behold, and it's gonna take some time to talk through this. And maybe that was already the intent. Isn't that amazing? I'm just thinking maybe part of the magical wonder that the divine decided to show me today was the urge to pull those 5 cards, because that was the discussion for this installment. And tomorrow's pyramid will go in honor of what the Americans like to call Halloween, but other cultures actually have it as a more sacred. It's also known as the Day of the Dead. It is when the veils of certain dimensions are thin enough for, um, let's just say, others and us to come through. And let me just say this: I'll preface tomorrow's installment by saying that it would be, here I go again with another wishful thinking, but I'm gonna put it out there in the ether, that it would be so fabulous if we was not spooked about so much stuff. I often have to contend within conversation with folks who believe that Halloween is all about the spooky isms that we already know were strategically propped up to keep us in line. And I often say this to my children: if I found a genie in a lamp, and the lamp was gold and it was beautiful and it was like nothing I had ever seen before, and I knew if I rubbed the lamp, the genie would come out and would grant me 3 wishes, right? Let's just say that folks come over who I am not really interested in sharing any of my 3 wishes with, but if they knew that I had this lamp, yeah, I would have to break off a wish or two. But if I give the notion that said lamps are evil, and if you touch them or engage with them, something bad is going to happen to you, and you need to stay away from it at all costs, and da 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 da, yeah. Imagine how many people would be spooked at the sight of the lamp. They wouldn't even want to go near it, let alone rub it or try to get any of my wishes from it. I don't have to worry with it. If for an instant we figure that the powers that be do not indulge in the rituals when the veils are at their thinnest. Oh man. Oh man. We do have a lot to unlearn and wrestle with when it comes to our beliefs and what we were raised believing and what our people were raised believing. Because I will guarantee you, it's only one or two cultures, and we're talking about across the entire globe, that honestly know the truth about the powers of the esoteric, the powers of mysticism, the powers of black magic, the powers of shadow work. Speaking with one of my girlfriends not too long ago, and I asked her, because we were talking about her parents. And so she was saying that her parents were into astrology, and then something happened, and then they became devout Christians, right? And so she was saying something to the extent that there was a woman who wanted her dad, and so kind of did this little juju, and something took place as a result of that. And I asked her, I was like, what if your mom and dad never left? Because the one who did the juju was the one who was still in it. And then so, and I'm not really sure. So I'm just kind of, I'll stretch it and assume, and I know that's not good for anybody, but let me just stitch this for a minute. It makes sense that when her mom and dad left, that old girl wanted dad to stay part of the esoteric crew and not run off with her mom to the Christian church. And so put the hoodoo, and I ain't gonna say voodoo because I understand that's the power of my people. To research it a little bit more, you understand how the Haitian war was won. Let's not get that twisted. But I'll say hoodoo because I don't really know exactly what whose do it was, but I know what voodoo. Voodoo, it wasn't that. But it was the hoodoo. So old girl put the hoodoo on Pops. And I asked her, what if your parents remained in that knowledge so that they could counteract it, they could sense it, they could block it, they could protect their auras and their realms, like they could, walk in and out of certain stealth modes and things of that nature, like could retaliate or something like that, versus just go blindly through and then have to suffer through certain injustices without having the invisible backup to offset that. Because I honestly believe that our ignorance is us of an element of implied consent. Because to know the knowledge, there are certain things to um, offset the or counteract the intrusions of folks with no manners. And to honestly know that most wars and most battles and most conflicts and confrontations are not of flesh and blood, principles, yeah, principalities, things of the unseen. We hear it all the time, but we flop it around like it's some social catchphrase. No, it's some truth to that. And we often fail or miss the mark when it comes to the scholarship, the due diligent time and attention it takes to yield certain powers so that you, and this is not to say that folks are not going to be sucker punching and getting jabs in every now and again or catch you off guard or something stuff that you got to deal with, as well as those that dabble into it do have to take up a certain level of responsibility and integrity with the way they're going to move and maneuver in this world. I tell my daughter all the time, with her being what I like to call a queen of Mercury, She's a Virgo sun, which means her communication, once she sharpened that sword to the point where it's double edged, she will be able to cut people for at the soul level with her words. You got to be careful with that type of power. But she shouldn't be ashamed of the power. Mercury is the reason why she here. Well, I ain't gonna say the reason why she here, but it's the larger influence. So she is a communicator by nature. We have to learn it first. That's why bullies exist. Because if everyone could fight, there would be no bullies. I guarantee you. If everybody understood the knowledge of combat, there would be no bullies. Because the bullies would know that the minute you drew the line in the sand, yeah, you was gonna get some. Yeah, you was gonna get some. And it gives everybody a sense of act right. Bullies only prey on those that they know cannot counteract that notion. Bullies knew, if they knew right off the break, that what you dish out, you was going to get back in full force, yeah, they think twice. They would have a little bit more manners with their approach. So, I guess this installment turned into a ramble. And then I think I did quite good actually because we are approaching up to day 50, and I haven't spazzed out in like one installment. This is awesome for me. Yes, honey. That was one of the things that I was worried about when I first started doing the 90-day journey by heart. I was like, okay, so I am an individual that is full of emotion. My my day-to-day scholarship is in part of understanding certain emotions, understanding my biological rhythms as well as my planetary infusions, in conjunction with my birth chart and things of that nature. So I knew that I was at the graduate level of understanding my emotionality. I knew that. But still a scholar all the same. And so I'm not a master of this by any means. And I'm just thinking, I'm like, OMG, like, am I gonna get up here and get the spazzing out? And everybody's gonna be like, what is going on with her? Que sera, sera. What will be, shall be. So that is gonna be the installment for today. Um, Still have quite a bit, but we're gonna roll with it and see what the next couple of installments have in store for us. So yeah, I'm gonna leave this pyramid for tomorrow in honorarium of the Day of the Dead. That's what I'm gonna call it. And seeing as that we are now in Scorpio, and Scorpio is the elemental of death, and death does not have to be a bad thing, especially when you understand the context of the esoteric meanings of death and rebirth and the phoenix rising. Um, it takes on a new tone of what death actually means. And it really is, as I'm learning and discovering, it really is as simple as one chapter closing and another one opening. Where there is death, there will always be rebirth. So, I'm looking forward to, now I am, just in this recording, something has begun to brew in me where I'm looking forward to analyzing this pyramid as a pyramid, and unfolding how the cards came out for me and what each card means to me personally, and how I can offer it up as a momentum of scholarship as we continue to walk this journey and become closer with that thing that we call self actualization. With that said, my loves, I thank you for hanging out with me, and I wish you well.